We often believe that what we eat has little, if any, impact on our psychological health. Especially when we're stressed or exhausted, it's all too easy to slide into unhealthy habits, such as eating on the run, binging on sweets, or gobbling up comfort foods. Unfortunately, when poor eating habits become the rule rather than the exception, our mental, emotional, and physical health truly suffer. Today, we'll focus on this listener's real life question. I want to be healthy, but I just can't seem to sustain a good diet. I've tried everything from prepackaged food plans to rigid diets, and nothing sticks. I ultimately get fed up and jump into binging on all the things I love. It's a vicious cycle that makes me frustrated and depressed. Is this a mental health issue? And with that question as the focus of today's episode, I'm Dr. Carla Marie Manley, and this is Imperfect Love.
Welcome to Imperfect Love with Dr. Carla Marie Manley, psychologist, author, and relationship expert. I'm here to help unravel mysteries and misconceptions about love, relationships, and mental health issues, plus everything in between. Love is complicated, people are not perfect, and relationships surely can be tough. Together, we'll navigate this messy, imperfect space of real life.
Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Eydie Desser, who will be sharing her expertise on real food for real transformation. Welcome to the podcast, Eydie. It's so lovely to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I love that question.
It is a terrific question and one that I imagine is not very uncommon.
It's extremely common. I have people asking me all the time, how do you stick with it? Why do isn't it hard? And it's actually very easy, but that's a whole long story.
Well, okay. You'll tell us how to make healthy eating easy. And before we dive into that extremely important question or answer, could you tell us a little bit about what makes you you?
Well, that's a great question. What makes me me? I think it's just I have joie de vivre. I just want to be happy, want to help other people, want to make other people happy. This is kind of how I've been since I was a little girl. But I wanted just to say that I am a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free eater, and I develop recipes in that vein. And the reason why I became whole food, plant-based was in 2013, a friend of mine, I was in the marketing business at the time, and she called me and she said, I want you to be part of the Plantrition Project. It's an organization that are plant-based physicians teaching doctors all over the world the power of food as medicine. And I said, I don't even know what that means. I don't even understand what that means. So the next year she asked me again. The next year she asked me again. And the next year, the third year, well, I went to culinary school, the French Culinary Institute in New York, after my long career in radio. I just decided I just want to learn how to cook. And then my mom and I wrote a cookbook with her recipes, and it was called Just Add Butter. So this is from whence I come, the French Culinary Institute. And I loved cooking, but I was having some major issues. I had terrible digestive issues, and I had super high blood pressure. And I got the high blood pressure when I was in radio, straight commission sales. And I called my doctor and I said, I think my heart's going to explode. He says, come right in, put me on the treadmill test. I was great there. But he said, oops, you have high blood pressure. It's genetic. Just take this pill. I said, but like for a month? And he says, no, for the rest of your life, or you're going to have a stroke and die. So I said, oh my goodness. Well, fast forward 28 years later, still on high blood pressure medicine, still super high blood pressure, even on the medicine. I learned about this group that teaches cooking classes online. And I was a cooking school teacher and I could use their videos if I wanted, but they came up with a new course called plant-based recipes, plant-based cooking. I said, there's that word again, plant-based. So I took the course and I learned so much from all these doctors talking about the power of food as medicine. And this one Dr. Clapper was talking about how it really helps your digestion. So I said, I'm going to go to True North Health where he's a doctor. And I went there for 2 weeks and just ate all that whole food, salt, oil, sugar free. And my body started working. It just started working. And not perfectly. It took a while, but I learned there that they reversed super high blood pressure. They reverse all high blood pressure. They did a clinical trial study of 174 people with high blood pressure. They put them on a water only fast, everyone for different amounts of time. And of 174 reversed their high blood pressure. But they had to stay on the plant-based diet, salt, oil, sugar-free. So I tell you this whole story because food really does matter. Just like you said in the introduction, that what we eat, I used to think you eat something and it didn't really matter, but it really affects every cell, tissue, and organ in our body, including our brain, including our happiness quotient. And because I was able to get off that pill, which does not prevent heart attacks, it does not, I'm heart attack free now because now my blood pressure went from 178 over 115 to 98 over 60. No pills. And so I had a real reason to say, this is important. That's the first thing. So one of the reasons when you say, how do you stay with it? Well, what is your why? Why do you want to do it? And when you do take care of yourself and when you feel so good, we don't even realize how bad we feel. When you start eating really healthy, oh my gosh, your energy gets bigger. You feel great. You sleep well. The inflammation's gone. I'm so much more flexible than I ever have been, even more flexible than when I was a cheerleader in high school. And no plaque on my teeth anymore. Everything just starts to work in harmony. It's a symphony. So food is the music.
Oh my goodness. And you are a real life example of the efficacy of a plant-based diet with no salt, no sugar, no oil. And we'll dive into that in just a minute. So let's take it back to the listener's question where, we live in a busy world and many people, so we're not about shaming or blaming our listeners, no place for that here. It's about looking at what's working and what's not working. And clearly for this listener, something's not working in their life. They are in a place where they've tried, it sounds like prepackaged food coming to the door, very rigid diets. And then there is this cycle of immediately going, as soon as that's done, it's like, okay, I'm done with this. Now I'm going to jump into what I really want to do. Almost like they're retaliating against the strictures of these dietary constraints. What do you say about that sort of rebound effect?
Well, first of all, it's not your fault. Believe it or not, it is not your fault. Back in the day, before industrialism, there were no packaged goods. There were no big brands selling their products. And what they do, and this is true, this is really what they do the bliss factor rule. So they add just enough sugar and just enough fat and just enough salt to make something deliciously blissful. Now, what happens is when we eat these things, they're addictive. They are truly addictive. And that's what big industry is doing to us. And they're making a lot of money. Good on them for figuring out how to how to make a lot of money, but not so good for us.
Right. The consequences of our eating habits, which we see, we are invited day after day to go to this fast food restaurant, this bakery, this easy, down this meal, down this supersize. Treat yourself to that delicacy. So we come to see food not necessarily as nourishment and certainly not healthy nourishment, but as, oh, I'm treating myself to this decadent meal or easy meal or fast meal. So it's almost as though we've been brainwashed.
We are. And a lot of people live to eat and they can't wait to go with their friends and they go on pizza tours. What's the best pizza? What's the best seafood restaurant? What's the best Asian restaurant? And I get that. That is so much fun. That is really so much fun. So I understand this listener's question. And just to scooch back just a little bit. So what I did, sometimes we just have to trick ourselves. We have to rewire our brain. if you have a bad attitude, let's just say you have a bad attitude. You wake up in one morning and you're just not very happy. This happened to me in the sixth grade. Well, not the only time, but in the sixth grade, I woke up and I said to my dad, I'm in a bad mood. I don't want to go to school. And dad says, well, you know, life is all about your attitude. If you have a good attitude, you'll have a great life. If you don't, well, that is totally up to you. It's your choice. I thought, wow, that's interesting. I can change my attitude. So I went and I looked in the mirror and I said, you're in a bad mood. And I just started cracking up on myself. I just like, you are ridiculous. And I got out of that thought process that I rewired my brain. And all of a sudden I was happy and I had a great day. Now, I'm not saying I'm happy 24/7, but I work at it. It's a practice. And this is really rewiring our brain. And if you don't feel good, so there's a reason why she wants to eat healthy. What is that reason? Do you not feel at your peak? Are you feeling guilty because you just know that this food isn't healthy? I mean, what is it? So that's the first question. But let's just say you really do want to make this thing work. Well, I believe in brainwashing, just like these big industrial companies do to us. We should brainwash ourselves. And the way I did it, and the way I've done it my whole life in a way, is say I want to make something happen. Then I find everything to support it. One of the doctors, McDougall, who's a plant-based doctor, he says people love to hear good news about their bad habits. So we look for, how is coffee good for us? How is wine good for us? How gluten, you have to have gluten. If you're not gluten intolerant, you have to have gluten. So we're really working to find that support. Well, we could do just the opposite as well. And on YouTube, there's so many plant-based doctors. Not that you have to go plant-based. By the way, there's no science that said 100% plant-based diet, salt, oil, sugar-free, is any better than like a 85 or 90%. So some people will want that salmon, or some people will want that, whatever, that's not plant-based. But for the most part, and it does make sense, all the nutrients and all the vitamins are in whole food. And I call it garden food. That's why the name of my brand and everything is called Garden of Eydie, an organic garden. My name is Eydie. And it's just really garden food, anything that would grow in the garden. It's real food like our great-grandmothers used to eat, great-great-grandparents used to eat. They didn't have all this junk. Now, other things killed them back then because they didn't have the healthcare that we do now. But we do have healthcare and we do have healthy food available to us.
Okay, so let's slow it down for a minute. For listeners who don't know what you mean when you say whole food and you're saying, hey, it's anything from the garden, okay? Does this mean that we don't drink milk or have yogurt, or what? So are you saying to really maximize healthy eating, we would ideally, at least 85 to 90% of the time, look for something that's growing in the garden?
Right. So we're talking fruits, okay? Fruits. All the beautiful colors of fruits. First of all, they're very hydrating. So you're drinking and eating water at the same time, plus all the vitamins and nutrients and anthocyanins, which are anti-aging, and all these things. All this food goes to every tissue, cell, and organ and makes it feel so good. It's our liver that usually takes the hit because it has to detoxify the body. So if you have animal has a lot of fat in it. And I know this is going to be hard for you to believe, but beef is less fat than chicken, even a white chicken breast. They put so many hormones and they push so much stuff into that breast to make it grow big. It's just really, can you believe that? I every time I hear it from my doctors, they say, yeah, it's even worse. It's even worse than me.
I had no idea. I'm a vegetarian, so
I know.
Okay.
So it's just interesting. And what happens when you eat a lot of fat in your body, which comes from all the meats and the oils, and I mean, nuts and avocados have fat, but they have a little fiber in them. But when you eat a lot of fat, it makes the blood thick. And so I could go into the science of it, but our veins are all surrounded by endothelial cells, and they give off nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is this magical ingredient that goes with the fast-moving blood all through your body, and then it regenerates and repairs your tissue, cells, and organs. And what happens is if you eat a lot of fat, from animal, from oils, from butter, from all that, it thickens the blood, and the nitric oxide kind of suffocates and it dies, and it can't get to all the cells to regenerate them. And then your liver has to work so hard to thin out that, detoxify that fat. And then the blood from your liver goes to your heart. It's like a teeny little straw now because it's so thick, and it's sipping up that thick blood. And now your heart is racing. Now it makes your heart work harder. All of the organs in your body suffer from too much fat. And then the sugar, of course, and the same with salt, is so inflammatory. So that's what's so great. So what I suggest to people is eat all those fruits. That's the first thing, a lot of fruit. Vegetables. Now, those have a lot of vitamins and minerals. All the dark leafy greens, you hear, hail to the kale, right? It's so healthy,
Yep.
all these cruciferous vegetables, and just steam them. Don't put oil or salt in them. And when you roast things and they blacken, it creates, it's aging, and it's acrylamide, and it's like eating burnt food. It's really unhealthy for your body. So be gentle with your food. When you're gentle with your food, you steam, then you're gentle with your body too. And so we could talk more about that. But so we have the fruits, we have the vegetables, the whole grains, and then beans. Beans are really good, and nuts and seeds.
Would
And
you pause for a second on the whole grains, just to give our listeners an idea of what you mean when you say whole grains?
Okay, so oatmeal and gluten-free. I like gluten-free just because gluten can be very inflammatory. So I like the gluten-free oats, millet, quinoa, buckwheat groats, things like that are whole grains.
Can we pause just for a minute on quinoa?
Yes.
Simply because of the amino acids and the protein. Would you talk about that? Because a lot of people miss quinoa. It's fairly new, on our radar, and it can be quite delicious.
It's actually a seed, but we put it kind of in the whole grain bucket. It's easy to digest. It's a wonderful way to flavor it, a million different ways to flavor it. And it actually helps satisfy you. So whole grains and beans kind of are the satiating components of a plant-based diet. I mean, I eat huge amounts of fruit, and I eat huge amounts of salad. And then I'll find myself a little hungry. And one of the questions is, how do you stay satiated on a plant-based diet? But you add just some beans. You don't even need that much. About protein, only 10% of our calories need to come from protein. We keep hearing 30%. We are not a protein deficient country. And one of my doctors, who happened to be vegan, not 100% plant-based, he says, you know how you can tell if you have enough protein? I said, how? He says, you can actually stand up and walk into my office. If you don't have enough protein, you can't even get up. So all of us have enough protein. And I don't eat any of the animal, none of the dairy. Dairy's really unhealthy with all the hormones. I mean, why do we drink a cow's hormones? It's like we're not its baby. And it's really bad for women. It increases the estrogen count. Fibroids come from it, endometriosis. There's a lot of rosacea and acne and all that dairy. The cheese, that's what causes stuffed up noses, runny noses, it's mucus forming. It's just one ingredient. If you could do almond milk instead, or oat milk, or hemp milk, or soy milk, that'd be a lot healthier for you.
Excellent. Okay, so beans. You were talking about beans. So people don't think you're referring to just green beans. You're talking about garbanzo beans, kidney beans.
Black beans, all the beans. There's some beautiful beans. There are these scarlet runner beans that are pinks and purples and creams and just beautiful. And they are meaty. They're really meaty. So just a few fill you up. They really do. That's why I really like to add a few beans to my salad. And they're really healthy too, because they're just so filled of fiber, so much fiber. And fiber is so important for our gut biome. The more fiber with the salads and the fruit and the beans and the whole grains, it's all fiber rich. And what happens is your body digests it so much easier, and it creates a very healthy bacteria in your body, your microbiome. So important for health of the entire body.
Okay, beautiful. Let's talk about that gut and how important we often think about brain health, but we don't often focus on that gut biome and how the gut biome gives so much information to our overall body. I remember listening to a speaker where she was talking about how 10% of, 10% information goes from brain to gut, and 90% information goes from gut to brain. And when we look at that and think, wow, this is an important source, not only of overall well-being, but our gut's giving our body, our brain, our mind so much information all the time. So we want the gut to be as healthy as it can be.
I mean, if you think about it, we're not just this, there's insides in our body. This is kind of like everything in our house. What's in your house? How much junk do you have in your house? And how much really high quality things do you have in your house? And this is our house. And we really want to keep it super healthy because it will affect every area of your life. Who likes a messy house filled with bad bugs?
And we get only one house, in this lifetime. So
but the good news is we can fix everything so quickly. So back to the question, how can she stick with this? Tell yourself why you want to do it. If we focus on what we do want, as far as health is concerned, as opposed to what we don't want to have, don't want to have it. I don't want to have to give that up. Oh, I want to eat that. We have to rewire our brain. And all of life, really, with the way I look at life, is not just the food. It's in Garden of Eden is not just about the food because there's so much more to life. And if you just focus solely on one thing, you're missing out on other joys of life. So it's not just what seeds are you planting in your body garden for health, but your heart garden for love and compassion. And I'm talking about it's so important to love ourselves. I know that sounds narcissistic, but it's not. It's just the opposite. It's very generous. Because when you love yourself, you really love yourself. And you can say, today, I'm going to eat so healthy. And I'm going to write down how I feel. I'm so proud of myself. I love myself because I can do whatever I want to do. I have that power. I have that strength. And then you just put so much love in your heart for yourself. Just fill it up with so much love. That goes straight to the brain. So from that love from your heart, you're teaching your brain how to think. And so you go straight to the brain. And now the way you feel with love is now the way you think. And when we feel so much love in our heart and we think it and we act as if we are filled with love, how does that help the world? In a huge way. So we are being very generous when we love ourselves.
I am absolutely with you, Eydie. And when people think, oh, self-care is narcissistic, I'm completely with you that it is not. And a really simple example, let's keep it to food, is if I imagine me and let's pretend I have a little 8-year-old child, and I wake up and I'm like, oh, I love myself. This is a beautiful day. It's going to be a great day. I fix myself a bowl of oatmeal and I eat it and I enjoy that oatmeal and maybe a cup of fruit with it. So, oh, this is good. What have I just done? Not just filled myself up with love, compassion, affection, and then healthy food, but this little 8-year-old who maybe it's probably better that they're an infant in this story because I'm not withholding oatmeal from them, but they are watching mom say, oh, this self-care, this loving myself, this giving myself nourishing food, it's not selfish because then it allows me as the mama to give this child, whether they're an infant or 8 years old, not only am I modeling healthy self-love, but I'm modeling healthy eating habits, healthy ways of being. And therefore, I've done one of the kindest gifts of all. I've not only loved myself, but I've given my child or anyone in my environment the gift of my more vibrant presence, as well as having modeled something or maybe many things in a very healthful way.
Well, that's just brilliant. I remember growing up as a young girl, mom would not keep junk food in the house. And she said it's not healthy. And I would go to a friend's house and they said, "Oh, we got some candy. You want some candy?" I said, "No, I don't want any." And then I thought, you know what? I have the better mom because she cares about our health. Like, I'm so lucky that my mom cares so much about my health. That was really powerful. Like, it made me love my mom even more. Isn't that so sweet of my mom to make sure we were healthy?
And absolutely beautifully modeled for you that no, this isn't healthy. Yeah, sweets are easy and a great treat, a great reward for kids, but no, not in our
Bad for
household.
your teeth.
But
It's
yeah,
like she explained, you don't want that. I mean, it was really, when I think back on that, I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but that's just a big, huge hug all around me from my mother.
absolutely. And a lifelong hug because you can look back and remember it and remember the thoughtfulness and the love behind it. So when we look at this listener's question, I could imagine if this listener's tuning in right now and saying, "Oh no, this is too much. I am not gonna, no, I like my cinnamon buns and I like my ice cream after dinner and I like my hamburgers. And maybe I can see myself switching to an impossible burger, which is probably another podcast all together. I've tried the Impossible Burgers, and boy, are they filled with a lot of stuff that leaves my stomach churning. Nothing against the Impossible Burgers, mind you, people, but they're not
Healthy.
whole food. They're not, they have been through so much processing, and any
A lot of
time,
chemicals. A
a
lot of
lot of chemicals, and any time we're buying something, we all don't live near a farm. I get it. We all don't have a backyard garden. So how could someone who's wanting to maybe not do a complete overhaul, but maybe baby step their way into your world, into Garden of Eydie, so that I'm not feeling, especially in the new year when so many people try that first, week, sometimes 2 weeks, and then they give up. The research shows most people give up in the first week of the new year. How can this listener and all of the listeners take pieces of what you're saying to successfully incorporate one element one day at a time so that maybe if they really find that it's wonderful, they can incorporate a more wholehearted plant-based diet if that's something they want?
Well, I think first of all, take an assessment of your health and see how you feel. Secondly, I would research a little bit, not a lot because you don't want to spend your whole time doing that, but research what are the detriments of eating eggs, for instance, dairy. Why shouldn't I eat this? Why shouldn't I eat this? Give me the real skinny on this thing, pun intended. But besides all that, since you know that whole food is healthiest, it would be wonderful if you just took baby steps. And usually for breakfast, people have cereals and they have oatmeal and fruit. Usually that's plant based. Then, and just switch out that dairy. For lunch, have a big salad. Try your hardest, just see what it's like to eat really healthy before dinner. Because dinner's the one where you kind of want that hamburger. You want to go out to dinner with friends and all of that. But at the same time, when you do have that non-plant based meal, as Dr. Goldhammer at the True North says, dead, decaying animal flesh.
Oh, not a pretty thought. Ugh.
He really sucks it to us. You can have that, but what if you just ate a smaller portion and got a big, huge salad? Did you know that when you eat a big salad, now I wouldn't put dressing on it. You could put a little vinegar or squeeze some orange juice or lemon juice on it. Have a lot of tomatoes and cucumbers because that's kind of like a dressing. And I have a lot of no salt, oil, or sugar salad dressings that are delicious. You would not miss the oil or the salt or any of that. Get a big salad. And if you eat a big salad before your dinner, you save about 100 calories because you're filling up on that salad first before you go to everything else. So fill up on salad first. And that's a really good tip. There's also a book by Dr. Greger, and it's called How Not to Diet. First, he has a book out called How Not to Die. And then he has a book out, How Not to Diet. And he has all these recipes, but he has these tricks, 20 different tricks that you can use that help you lose weight But he also talks about a whole food plant-based diet, and he's all nonprofit. He does this just to help the world. So
Ah,
he's a really
nice.
incredible guy, Dr. Greger. And now he has a new book, which I can't wait to get. It's called How Not to Age. That's a good one.
That does sound like a good one. We can all use that. So when I'm looking at tips for our listeners to think about what are some baby steps if I don't want to completely overhaul, I'm just not prepared to go plant-based without oil, sugar, and salt. What do you think? I think that, some of the things that I've found really helpful for people are first, don't shop for food when you're hungry.
Well, that's true.
Second, shop the perimeter of the grocery store because that's where the fresh fruits and vegetables are. So you're less likely to buy the packaged snacks and the packaged cookies and the packaged cereals, although you do have to go into that packaged aisle to get the oatmeal. So that's another tip that I give to people. The other tip that I give to people when it comes to healthy eating is see if you can make one change per week. Just see how that sits with your body. Because for some people, if they're switching to changing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's like, oh, I can't do that. But if they say, I'm just going to try a bowl of oatmeal. Now, not the packaged one, guys, with the sweetened,
Right.
whatever it is that they put into it, but just some regular oats that are as organic as possible. And try that so they can see that, yes, I can make this one change. So I think those three things, we're finding one change a week, shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, and then the other one, which is simply be really careful about what you're putting into your basket so that you're shopping when you're not hungry. Because when we're hungry, everything looks good, especially the fast food, the
Sure.
comfort food.
I do have a tip on the oatmeal, really good one. If you put cinnamon in it, that increases the antioxidant level. And antioxidants is antioxidizing. So when we eat all sorts of foods, we are aging our insides, and these are and the inflammation. So these antioxidants are anti-aging. So put some cinnamon and then one little pinch of clove powder, and that increases the antioxidant level by 2,000%. So
Goodness.
what I like to focus on is how much nutrition can I get in my body every single day? What can I do every single day to get more nutrition in my body? And one thing I love to do is if I don't have time to make all my own salads, I usually do. I have like a salad bar in my refrigerator. I love doing that. So everything you like in your salad, you chop it up on a Sunday, you put it in glass containers in your refrigerator. And then so today I want red cabbage, tomatoes, fennel, all raw, and you just have a salad bar right in your refrigerator. Also, keep carrots ready, keep celery ready, keep cucumbers chopped up ready. And just when you get hungry, grab that. I love dates and apples. I'll get an apple, I'll get a date, and I'll take a bite of the apple, a bite of the date. Delicious and so filling and so healthy. I love just focusing on what is delicious, what do I love, and how easy can I make it for myself. But if you can't have a salad bar in your refrigerator, I love to go to the big salad bars and I just get all the raw food I possibly can. Tons of tomatoes, cucumbers, celery. It makes it all wet. I don't need a dressing. Sometimes I'll add some orange juice or lemon juice. I love orange juice with lime juice together on my salads. And then at night, steam some vegetables. In fact, I know this is hard to believe too, but Dr. Greger has done all this research and he says microwaving, you will retain 95% of the nutrients in your vegetables. So I like to chop up some vegetables, put it in a big bowl with just a bit of water, put it in the microwave and microwave it for about a minute, 15 seconds or however long it takes. I don't know your microwave, but you take it out and now you've got delicious steamed vegetables. And I like to put all sorts of spices like smoked paprika, a little cumin, maybe some garlic in there, ginger. You can spice it any way you want. And spices are lots of antioxidants in that as well. So these are just some of the tips. And I understand, yes, shop the perimeter, just have fun with it. And there's a lot of recipes out there. A lot of the plant-based people do eat the oil, the salt, and the sugar. I stay away from it because I do have a propensity to having high blood pressure, but just know they're not the healthiest ingredients. Now, some people need salt. Some people have very, very low sodium in their bodies and they have to have it. So you have to make sure that you talk to your doctor, work with your doctor to help you eat the best plan for you and your situation. And then just have fun with it. Let's not make it so serious. I always say health is serious. Leave fun. Because when you feel good, you can do good. And life is a lot more fun.
Eydie, it's such incredibly wonderful and easy to, no pun intended, swallow information. Easy to swallow this. I have one more question it's a tangent from this listener's question, but one I think might be at issue for many people because many of my clients talk about it and friends where prediabetes is an issue. And so they're taking, whether it's semaglutide, whatever it is. Do you have, again, we're not offering medical advice here. So we're not going over anything your doc is telling you. What would you recommend for someone who is facing not diabetes, because we want that in the medical practitioner's hands, but issues where maybe they can get ahead of diabetes? What would you offer?
It is rampant. It is so rampant, prediabetes. And it's so easy to reverse. Like in 2 weeks, you can reverse prediabetes and people who had diabetes for a while. There is a group called Mastering Diabetes. It's these two gentlemen. One, they both have type 1 diabetes, so you cannot reverse that. But their AC1 is like below perfect because they eat a whole food, plant-based diet. And one of them is completely raw, Robbie Barbero, and the other one, Cyrus Kambuta, who is a PhD. I think he does eat some cooked food. I'm not saying you have to do either of these, but if you would look online, Mastering Diabetes on Instagram, on YouTube, they are so filled with information. They're very inspiring. They definitely want you to exercise. And we just have to get our body back in homeostasis. And it's so, so easy to do.
Well, there you have it. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
People can reverse their high blood pressure in 2 weeks. People can reverse a lot of things when you take out all the food that causes it. And one other thing I did want to say, if you could try just for 1 week, it takes about 2 weeks really for our taste buds to change. But if you cut out the oil, the salt, and the sugar, and you ate all whole foods, I mean, when I eat something oily, I'm telling you, it's awful. It's rancid. The minute you cook oil, it's rancid. And I don't know, it's just doesn't feel good to me. If I accidentally, eat, if I have something sugary or something, I'm just telling you, your taste buds change dramatically. My husband is a carnivore living in the Garden of Eden, but we've cut the salt out way big time when I make his food. And you know what? He just can't handle the salt. He used to love French fries with lots of salt. He can't even handle it. And now I used to love French fries. It's vegan, but now I taste the rancidity of the fried oil. And so your taste buds become accustomed to something healthy and delicious, nutritious, meaningful for yourself. So if you could give yourself a try to cut that out for a couple of weeks, I think you would have a much easier time doing this full time. But once again, I'm not saying you must talk to your doctor and you must do what's right for you. But please, just let's all love ourselves big time. Love ourselves to health and happiness.
Eydie, thank you so much for your time, for the wealth of easy to digest information. Again, no pun intended, but it is easy to digest. And really, you make it basic. You just make it basic for us to give it a try for 2 weeks. Listen to your body. Give your taste buds time to adjust.
And brainwash yourself. Brainwash yourself. Find every video on why no oil, no salt. Find every video why vegetables, why fruit. Just constantly feed that brain why you want this and why you don't want that.
And we might even call it brain cleansing instead of
Yes,
brainwashing,
I
because
like
if
that.
we're cleansing the brain to see that the food that we consume in this post-industrial world is not what our bodies, which have been around for, very long time without all of this packaged food. It's what they crave. It's what they need. It's what they want. And in truth, it's what they deserve. So thank you again, Eydie. I am so grateful. Where can our listeners find you?
Well, it's Garden of Eydie. It's EYDIE.com. I have a website. I have an Instagram at Garden of Eydie. I do some YouTube that's just starting, and a little TikTok.
Well, and your website's beautiful. The food you create is beautiful. It's so enticing. So thanks again. And I'm just so grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me, and
You,
sending lots of love to all of you.
thank you, Eydie. And listeners, thank you for joining us. This is Imperfect Love.
Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today. Remember, you have the power to transform your life and love fearlessly, if imperfectly, and it's my privilege to help you along the way. You can find more life-changing content, including my books and other podcast episodes, at drcarlamanley.com. Feel free to submit your own confidential questions through my website. I'll do my very best to include your issue on a future episode. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. Until we connect again, this is Dr. Carla Marie Manley wishing you oceans of blessings and love. Please note, this podcast is psychoeducational in nature and is not intended to replace formal mental health support. Please contact your healthcare provider or emergency hotline if you need psychiatric care. And as always, please take good care of your amazing, wonderful self.